James Morrison had not touched his wine in almost an hour. He sat alone at a table set for two, at the same restaurant where he had proposed 25 years earlier, on the exact night that should have been his silver anniversary. His wife Catherine had died 18 months before, and every year since, James kept the reservation anyway. He told himself it was a way of honoring her. Tonight he was starting to wonder if it was something closer to punishment. He was 52 years old, the CEO of a financial firm worth more money than he would ever spend, and he could not remember the last time he had wanted anything at all. That was when a young woman approached his table, a baby wrapped in mismatched fabric against her chest, and asked him a single question that would undo everything he thought he understood about his own life. She did not ask for money. She asked for his leftovers. And the way she asked it, not desperate, but proud, like it cost her something to say the words out loud, was the first thing in 18 months that made James Morrison feel anything at all. He would spend the next 3 years trying to explain to people why that moment changed him. Most of them never quite believed the real reason. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. The young woman's name was Lily Harper. She was 24 years old, and the baby against her chest was her daughter, Emma, 4 months old and sleeping despite the cold. James stood so quickly, he nearly knocked over his chair. He told her to sit, and when she hesitated, torn between hunger and pride, he told her again, gently this time, and pulled out the second chair at his table. She sat like someone whose whole body ached from carrying more than a baby. James signaled the waiter for a fresh menu and warm milk. Lily tried to refuse twice before her voice broke, and she admitted she had not had a real meal in 3 days. Over the next hour, James listened as Lily's story came out in careful pieces. She had been a nursing student working 2 jobs to pay her own tuition when she became pregnant. The father left within a week of finding out. Her parents, devout and unbending, told her she had shamed the family and could not come home unless she gave the baby up. She refused and lost her apartment 3 months later when a pregnancy complication cost her both jobs at once. She had been sleeping in a shelter that only allowed families in after 6 at night, spending her days walking the city so Emma would stay warm. James recognized something in her that he had almost forgotten in 18 months of grief. The particular stubbornness of someone who keeps choosing love even when it costs them everything. He thought of Catherine, who had spent her last working years volunteering with new mothers exactly like Lily. He thought of the foundation that bore his wife's name and had done almost nothing but write checks since she died. Before he had fully decided anything, he heard himself offering Lily a 1-bedroom apartment he owned 2 blocks away, rent-free, and a scholarship through his company's foundation to finish her nursing degree. Lily stared at him like he had spoken a different language. She asked him why a stranger would do this for her, and James found he did not have a tidy answer. He told her only that a very wise woman had once said their family had not been put on this earth to accumulate wealth, and that he had spent 18 months forgetting she was right. Lily cried then, the kind of crying that comes from a person who has been holding herself together through will alone. James let her cry without trying to fix it, and for the first time since the funeral, he felt useful. The arrangement moved faster than either of them expected. Within 2 weeks, Lily and Emma were settled into the small apartment, and James's foundation had approved her scholarship. He told himself this was simple generosity, nothing more, the kind of thing Catherine would have wanted him to do without a second thought. It was his adult children who first made him question that story. His daughter Rachel called him after hearing about the arrangement from a mutual friend, her voice careful in the way people get when they are trying not to start a fight. She asked how well he actually knew this young woman. She asked whether anyone had checked her story. She reminded him, not unkindly, that grief made people vulnerable, and that vulnerable people sometimes made decisions they later regretted. James told Rachel she was overreacting. But that night, alone in his apartment, her questions sat with him longer than he wanted to admit. He had not asked Lily for a single document. He did not know her parents' names, or the name of the university she claimed to attend, or whether any part of her story could be verified. He had handed a stranger housing and tuition money on the strength of a feeling. For a man who had spent 30 years building a career on due diligence, it was an uncharacteristically reckless decision, and he knew it. The doubt deepened 2 weeks later when an old family friend, a man who had known Catherine since college, pulled James aside at a charity dinner and told him bluntly that he had heard of women who targeted grieving widowers with exactly this kind of story. He used the word scheme. James felt something cold settle in his chest, not because he believed it, but because some small part of him could not fully rule it out. He drove to Lily's apartment that same night, later than was polite, and knocked without calling ahead. Lily answered in scrubs, exhausted from a full day of classes and clinicals, Emma asleep against her shoulder. James, standing in her doorway, asked her the question he had been avoiding for 2 weeks. He asked if there was anything about her story she had not told him. Lily's face went through several emotions before settling on something closer to weariness than anger. She invited him in, sat him down, and without being asked, retrieved a folder from a drawer. Inside were her university transcripts, her enrollment records, a printed message thread with her mother that ended, unanswered, 11 months earlier. She told James she had prepared the folder the week she moved in, because she knew a man like him would eventually have people whispering in his ear, and she wanted to be ready rather than wounded when it happened. She said she understood why he had to ask. What she could not forgive, she told him quietly, was that it had taken him 2 weeks to ask her directly instead of trusting a rumor at a dinner party. James sat with that for a long moment, and then he apologized, plainly and without excuses, the way he rarely apologized to anyone. The weeks that followed rebuilt something sturdier than the arrangement had been before. James stopped treating his help as a project to monitor and started treating Lily as someone whose judgment he trusted. He introduced her properly to Rachel, who came away from one long dinner conversation admitting she had misjudged the situation. He began showing up not with checks, but with time, watching Emma on Saturday mornings so Lily could study in silence for the first time in a year, sitting in the back of her review sessions just to understand what she was working toward. Somewhere in that stretch of ordinary Saturdays, James realized the arrangement had stopped being about Catherine's memory and started being about his own life. He had spent 18 months moving through his days like a man waiting for something to end. Now he found himself looking forward to Saturdays, to Emma learning to crawl across his office floor, to Lily's exhausted, triumphant stories about passing her exams. His own children noticed the change before he did. Rachel told him one evening that he sounded, for the first time since the funeral, like their father again instead of a man performing the role. 3 years passed measured less in months than in milestones. Emma took her first steps in James's living room. Lily passed her boards on the first attempt, a fact she announced to James over the phone before she told anyone else, including her own reconciled mother, who had finally reached out after Emma's second birthday. James watched from a distance as Lily rebuilt pieces of her old life alongside the new one she had made, never asking him for more than he offered, never letting the arrangement calcify into dependency. She insisted on paying a small rent once she started working, over James's repeated objections, because she said dignity mattered as much as survival. On graduation day, James stood at the back of the auditorium the way he always did at Lily's milestones, close enough to see, far enough not to intrude on a moment that belonged to her. Emma, 3.5 now, sat in the front row between Rachel and James's grandchildren, clutching a small strip of fabric she had carried since infancy, the last remaining piece of the mismatched blanket Lily had wrapped her in that first night at the cafe. Lily had kept it deliberately, she told James once, so Emma would always have something from the beginning of their story, even if she never remembered it herself. When Lily crossed the stage to receive her nursing degree, her name read aloud to an auditorium full of strangers and the small handful of people who actually knew what it had cost her to get there. James found himself thinking not of the young woman who had once asked for his leftovers, but of Catherine and the quiet, unrecognized work she had spent her final years doing without ever expecting credit for it. He understood now, in a way he had not 3 years earlier, what she had been trying to teach him in the months before her death about where a life's real weight is actually measured. It was never in balance sheets or boardrooms or the size of a portfolio. It was in moments exactly like this one, a stranger's daughter crossing a stage, a little girl in the front row still refusing to let go of a piece of fabric older than her own memory. After the ceremony, Lily found him in the crowd and held on longer than usual, her graduation cap slightly crooked, tears already falling before she managed to say anything at all. She told him she still did not have the right words for what he had done, that she had tried for 3 years, and never found language big enough. James told her she did not need them. She whispered that he had saved their lives that night at the cafe, the same thing she had said to him quietly a dozen times over the years. James corrected her gently, the way he had learned to over 3 years of Saturdays and flashcards and small, ordinary kindnesses that had slowly rebuilt him. He told her the truth was the reverse. She had saved his. Later that evening, after the small celebration at his home had emptied out and the last of his grandchildren had fallen asleep on the couch beside Emma, Lily found James alone on the terrace, looking out at the same city that had once made him feel like he was trapped behind glass, watching life move around him without him in it. She thanked him again, more simply this time, for seeing her that night instead of looking away like every other person on that patio had. James told her that was the real reason, the one he had spent 3 years failing to explain to anyone who asked why a stranger's request had changed his life so completely and so quickly. It was never really about the leftovers, or the apartment, or the scholarship, though all of those things had mattered in their own way. It was that on the one night he felt most invisible in his own life, a young woman with far less than he had found the courage to ask to be seen, and in answering her, he had finally allowed himself to be seen too, for the first time since Catherine died. He told her that courage was contagious in a way people rarely talked about, that her one small act of asking had given him permission to stop hiding behind his grief and start living inside his life again. He could have said no that night. He could have finished his meal in silence, paid the bill, and gone home to another empty anniversary, the way he had every year since Catherine's death. Instead, he chose to notice a stranger's courage instead of his own discomfort, and that single choice, ordinary on its surface, unremarkable to anyone watching from another table, had rippled outward for 3 years and was still moving through both of their lives, and now through Emma's, in ways neither of them could fully measure yet, and likely never would.